Afternoon, dear participants. It's our pleasure to invite you to this online Zoom webinar on the topic of export of made in Kazakhstan food manufacturing product to Singapore and other Southeast Asian countries. Together with my consortium partners, we're going to present you solution on how to bring your products to Singapore and other Southeast Asian market, taking advantage of online stores such as Redmart, Zmart, NTUC, Fair Price. And in this process, always the products will belong to you. So you own them from beginning and to the end. So today we have Sudev Ramachandran from Business Engineers Asia, together with Kantiban, who will share about Singapore incubation program that they run and collaborate with us. Then we'll hear from Lillian Cheng. She's the co-founder consultant of Chen Monroe and Associates. She's expert in pricing, so she will talk about perceived pricing and what are the strategies on that. Of course, in this process, important role plays logistics. So we'll hear from our partner, Idahar Asia, represented by owner and founder Aziz Janbakiev. And at last, of course, as a Kazakhstani export is also an agenda of the government of Kazakhstan, we'll hear from Castrate and Aybek Saganaev will share with us what are the measures and what are the instruments available for our exporters to actually support them to bring their products abroad, of course, including Singapore and Southeast Asia. So today we will discuss in detail about the solutions. Our agenda is going through Sauwat Strategy, going through Singapore incubation program, logistics, pricing, and hear from the government. And if we have time, we will talk about credentials, our previous experience. So if we start from my company, it's a Singapore-based company that was incorporated this year in 2020 to support SMEs to enter Central Asia and Southeast Asia. First company was established in Kazakhstan in 2015, and we supported only SMEs to enter Central Asia. But after my experience in this market, I decided to incorporate company here, and together with consortium of partners, we provide various solutions. And this webinar will focus on food industry and how to bring products here and sell it. If you can see, we had a client geography from various regions, including South Korea, Spain, Netherlands, Singapore, and Kazakhstan, of course. In terms of services, we provide 4 basic services. It's industry analysis, it's market entry strategies design, strategic communication that help to make awareness of our clients' products and services in these regions. And then, as we understand, once you enter the market, important role plays the partners, local partners. So we'll do partner due diligence and present to you some of the ideas about them so you can further collaborate. In terms of methodology, we primarily use the primary data to explore. Then we create some hypotheses, test them, and then recommend some solutions. Then we constantly share our progress with our clients and assess the development. And it's like a circle that goes back and forth. Next, let me give a floor to Business Engineers Asia to share about this Singapore incubation program that they actually developed for the last 3 years, and we're collaborating with them. So Sudev, I want to give a floor to you. If you can continue, please.
So similarly, what we are trying to do is trying to give a very safe and a very controlled environment in which you can actually have an opportunity to try out. See, at the end of the day, Kazakhstan is very far away. Kazakhstan products are not very well known in Singapore yet. hopefully with the start of what we just did, we will be able to get that going. And the idea here is that we want to give an opportunity for Kazakhstan products to come here to test out the market here, to test out the opportunity to see whether your products will take up. See, there are definitely a lot of plus points about starting off in Singapore. One of the key things is e-commerce here has really taken off in a very big way. And if you really want to, if you have done any kind of, if you have followed any news about the e-commerce platform, you'll know that all the big guys, you're talking about Alibaba, you're talking about Amazon, they have all come down here. And there's a reason why they were focusing on the Southeast Asian market, because the potential here is really, really fantastic. The growth potential is exponential. So what we try to do here in our process is very simply, to put it in a very simple way, we act as your arms and legs, and we help you bring a presence, your company, your products to our country without you having to actually invest a very large amount of money into setting up your own business, or for that matter, looking for distributors. Distributors can always be a very challenging process. Okay, it really is about finding the right person who will value your product and will give it the right amount of attention and focus. Now that is something that is quite challenging, because sometimes you hit it right, sometimes you end up having it wrong. Now, when we first decided to do this product, or to launch this particular BEP model, one of the key things that I want to share with you all is that we started out exactly as how you guys started out. We started out with our own business. We wanted to sell products that we had, our own products. And when we went out there, we went out first to all the major supermarkets and all the major retail stores here. And we found out some very hard truths. Number one, it's not that easy to get in. Number two, even when you get in, you're going to have to pay a really expensive entry fee, for the lack of a better word. And this had made it very difficult for entrepreneurs to come in. So when we looked at the whole process, we realized that e-commerce is really the way to go in terms of the way it can save on cost and the potential outreach that it can have. So basically what we decided to do was, we're going to create a model in which you guys can actually come over, try your products out here in a very fixed and in a very controlled environment as much as possible, but give you an opportunity to start straight away. The minute you register onto our platform, you register onto our model and our program, you are automatically loaded up with one of the biggest, in fact, the biggest e-commerce platform at the moment right now is a group called Red Mart. And Red Mart is interestingly owned by Alibaba. All right. So that's a very quick summary of how we do this. I'll hand over to Deeban right now to just talk you through the process. Deeban.
Hi, good evening. And before I start, Ahmed, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think it's a brilliant idea, because the whole aim is to support Kazakhstan companies, and it suits perfectly very well with the incubator model we have. Now, the incubator model is a theory come practical solution mastered over 3 years to 5 years of our ground level work. We took all the challenges a foreign company, even a domestic Singapore company, will face. We looked at all the opportunities which are gathering, the birth and the rise of e-commerce, especially with focus on e-commerce grocery, and we came out with this model called the Singapore Incubator. So the whole strategy and the important part of the model is, we want the foreign manufacturers, in this case the Kazakhstan companies, to understand the holistic approach of doing business in Singapore. We start by identifying suitable products, because when you want to enter every country, different regulations will allow certain products to come in easier, certain products to have a slightly longer entry strategy. We look at the products, we understand what is their cost structure, we teach them how to do international transfer, be it land, air, or sea, be it in a full load container or partial container, in a way that they are able to understand from Kazakhstan. First step, trying to identify good practical products which are suitable for the Singapore market, and understanding the cost of transferring over them to Singapore. Once it reaches Singapore, in these dynamic days where e-commerce is 24/7, we have also made sure that the incubation and our operations work 24/7. We have made it very simple in a way that we behave as if we are you. So if you are overseas and you're running your own company, you have your own warehouse, you will have your own team, administration, accounts collection, goods receiving, goods packing. That is what we are doing. We are actually taking the holistic setup into one simple solution. And with the fact that we are already working with RedMart, and if you look, we are also now about to be tied up with the #2 biggest player in the market called NTUC. They are a unionized supermarket chain, and we will be listing the products there. Now, this creates awareness. That is the most important aspect of this entire incubator. Once people are familiar, and people who are already online are very familiar with looking and finding new products, and the demographics and the characteristics of a Singapore consumer who is tech savvy and who is buying online, they are always looking for something new, something exciting. We have the products listed, the customer buys the product, RedMart or NTUC processes the order. Subsequently, after the sales is done, they will actually pass the revenue back to us. We will collect the revenue and we will remit the revenue back to you. So the whole process is to allow you to have that chance to actually enter the market, create the awareness, generate sales, and most importantly, get valuable market information. For example, if you are a juice manufacturer, you may have 5 to 10 different juice variants. Maybe in Kazakhstan, the first three, juice A, juice B, juice C could be something which is popular, but it may be very different in Singapore. You are not able to actually have statistics, but by going through the incubator where your products are listed, you have consumers who are buying it, you're getting a lot of practical data. And that data is going to be very important because any form of market entry strategy in the later stages, you have more valuable information which will help you. Let's say if your sales starts growing very well, there's an opportunity for you to even come and set up a small business operations versus trying to find a distributor. Or if you manage to find a distributor, you are able to tell the distributor what set of products are more popular in Singapore. Because during this incubation, you're going to learn the whole process of identifying which products are good, what are the market entry regulations. Once you have entered the market, what kind of a price structure you need to use, from the logistics, once the market entry is here, to cover certain aspects of the cost. Even including in the future, if you decide to set up your operations or work with a distributor, their cost structure also need to be taken into consideration. We help you with getting product approvals from the respective government agencies. The holistic aspect of business is done. And the best part of the entire incubator is all sales generated goes back to you. This is the whole incubation process. We want you to have the best, most available solution which creates the necessary information, structure, strategy, which will really be useful for you, not only in the initial market entry, but also in the prolonged stages of market entry and expansion, not only into Singapore, but into Southeast Asia. And one aspect of the entire incubation is we share with you knowledge of what the retail culture is about, what the consumer culture is about, things like packing, things like how certain aspects of logos are important. Taking into consideration there are some meat manufacturers, it is also important to understand whether your meat products are ready to be imported or there are certain barriers which are being faced. Juice manufacturers, taking into consideration in the future where Singapore government is now focusing on less sugar, the healthier choice aspects of products. Taking into consideration confectionery manufacturers, it is important to understand that certain types of confectionaries are preferred in Singapore, the kind of lead time we are talking about. Now, we also have spaghetti manufacturers where the fact that your spaghetti has a 24-month shelf life has got good importance, especially in this COVID period. So every product is unique because we always believe a manufacturer who produces their product is like a parent having a child. It is very important that they groom their child in the same way the manufacturer wants the best for their child. So that's why the incubator has been very strategically formed to help you incubate your business with the starting point being Singapore, subsequently with the knowledge and experience and the exposure, give you the chance to expand to Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Tiban. Thank you so much. I am quite mindful of timing, and I think it was great that you shared with Sudev the whole process. But in this process, of course, important part plays logistics and how to bring these products from Kazakhstan to Singapore and other Southeast Asia. Will be good to hear from Aziz about the best way to do logistics from Kazakhstan to this market. Aziz, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Aziz. I'm glad to hear you all. And let me briefly start the conversation from the practice, how we're going to do this, because we operate with our own equipment and we have our own equipment in Kazakhstan and CIS countries. So in this case, we can pick up all cargoes from any city of Kazakhstan to our terminal hub. Our terminal hub is located in Almaty city. So Almaty is the biggest city in Kazakhstan. And we have different kind of the operations and handling as such as a bonded warehouse, customs warehouse, commercial warehouse, whereas we can store the cargoes under specific conditions, under regulations like CCTVs, the temperature regulation. And for example, for instance, if you need to store some cargo and move them further to another country like Uzbekistan, we can place to the custom zone. So custom zone allows to store the cargo during the 2 years. And we have also all the customs brokerage staff who can assist us on the export customs formalities and all document preparation, including the translation of all the documents into the Russian or Kazakh language, according to the standards of the Kazakhstan authorities requirements. We do have also, as I mentioned, the terminal handling. So means that we can provide all the operations, including the photo report, the video report in HD quality. We can actually pack and label. We can stuff all the items. We can do the consolidation. We have our own container equipment. We have also I cooperate with the transport operator who has own wagon fleet, means that we're cutting off all the like third-party players in this market. So this is quite good because we have all the time supply of the wagons. We have direct contracts with the Kazakhstan Railway, China Railways, and some other CS countries like Uzbekistan Railway and so on. The process of the railway transportation also is quite complicated, but we're quite familiar with that. So we know how to apply the plans and submit in Kazakhstan Railway, because this is like long also the procedure to be confirmed also by China Railway, because China will be used as a transit hub, and then we will move all the cargoes by sea to Singapore or any Southeast Asian countries like Taiwan, Malaysia, and so on. We do have also the own terminal. This is my partners who's cooperating with me exclusively. So he has the transport terminal at the cross border between Kazakhstan and China. This is one of the important parts, because we can also control what is happening with our container equipment once it crosses the border to China, or back and forth actually from China to Kazakhstan. We do have the direct contract with the Qingdao port authorities, who is assisting us on handling all the transit cargoes. And we do have all the operations with the handling, shifting operations from the railway station to the ports. We are moving the barge. And after that, we apply and book with the vessels who is dispatching from Qingdao port to Singapore or any other Southeast Asian countries. In Singapore, we do also have the agreement with PSA. This is free trade zone in Keppel District Park, so we can handle all the cargoes, and this is excellent actually for the trading operations. And store the cargo in Singapore, actually in a free trade zone. In this case, the cargo could be moved from Singapore actually to any point of the world. And we can store the cargo, we can handle, we can do the consolidation, we can cut off the prices, because actually it's quite familiar to dispatch from Singapore by LCO. LCO is kind of the consolidation inside of the container. So the transit time is very short by sea in the LCO mode, and the price is so cheap actually. In this case, that would be the most optimal mode of the handling all the cargoes, especially for the export from Kazakhstan, because the Kazakhstan is very far away from the seaports. So the logistics is quite complicated. And we do have all the skills, knowledge, and experience how to handle this properly according to the international requirements, let's say. So this is shortly my presentation.
And I think it's important to mention, Aziz, what are the modes. Once again, I want to reemphasize, because I saw the question right away, that you can do air, railway, ship, trucks. Yes?
Yes, exactly. If we talk about the export from Kazakhstan to Singapore, there are actually two modes of transportation. The first one is very easy. It's air shipments. You can dispatch by the air flights from Almaty directly to Singapore, or from using the transit hubs in Istanbul, Dubai, Hong Kong, and so on. The second one, it calls multimodal shipments. The multimodal shipments is the combined two transport modes. The first mode will be railway, and the second mode will be sea shipment, because the cargo will arrive by sea to Singapore port.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. Thank you, Aziz. And of course, to support your expert, dear participants, to Singapore, the role plays government, Kazakh government. And today we have a speaker on government support. We'll hear from him later. But we have to understand that in our solution that we're proposing, the ownership of the product from the beginning till the end, until you make a sales to customers, and customers will belong to you. So the product will belong to you. It means that you will be responsible for pricing, and international pricing will play an important role in your strategy in order to, of course, make sure that all your costs have been covered, and also you will get value add from that. And on this topic of product pricing, I would love to introduce Lilian Cheng, who is an expert in this, and she is a renowned speaker on pricing in different parts of the world. And she's also professor of NUS Business School, and she was one of my favorite professors, actually. So I really thank Lilian, and I'm glad that she is part of our solution. Lilian, the floor is yours. Let me unmute you.
Okay, so hello everyone. I teach and consult and help companies enter markets in general. So over the years, I've learned, and especially in pricing, that most companies have a tendency to do cost plus pricing. And inevitably, it adds into all sorts of problems, because the reality is very few of us can attribute cost to different products accurately. And more damagingly, your customers don't really care about your cost. So in recent years, there's been a dramatic change in the market, particularly in the European and North American markets, where I give a lot of seminars, and it's that people are starting to realize the most influential variable in your strategy that directly impacts on your revenue and profitability is pricing. but there's very little we know about pricing. A lot of people think that we kind of discuss, and I used to work for high-tech companies, and inevitably what we do is we discuss and go, well, what should we do? And we think approximately where we should price, and then it's a guesswork. There's a lot more to pricing, and to think of pricing as putting a number on a product is incorrect. What we really want to do is start considering pricing from the minute you are thinking of entering the market. So this whole incubation program is particularly powerful because it allows you to do a lot of testing, a lot of trials. And what we want to do correctly is to start with some market analyses, understand your customers, understand the positioning of various different channels. And because pricing is contextual, in the sense that the pricing of your products would have to vary depending on which channel is sold through and what are the neighboring products next to you. It is important to understand your channel, understand how the customers shop in that channel, and then start understanding for yourself what product and brand positioning can you establish in the market. Pricing, in the world, everybody is talking about value-based pricing. I've taken a different act. In fact, I'm finishing a book on not value-based pricing, but perceived value pricing. There's no absolute value. What we're really talking about is how do you establish the right perception for your product so you can price to that. So I think in our chat discussion, we've talked a little bit, I asked some question about whether or not some of the products are organic. And I think the answer was that you are organic, but didn't have the certification. In this situation, a lot of it depends on how you frame your marketing messages. There is a lot to do with establishing the perception and pricing to that perception. So what we do is we actually help you figure out what prices are reasonable, that make sense, that create market resonance, given your certain messaging and your positioning. Then the issue is, once you've established your perception, you try to message it and you try to price to that. How do you nurture that perception? Some of the promotional activities a lot of brands do end up hurting it because we tend to have knee-jerk reactions to pricing instead of a total pricing strategy. So we talk about how do you nurture the perception. We have continuous efforts to do that. And then how do you effect pricing integrity in the sense that how do you price so that it makes sense across the board in different channels? And that how do you, and there's also legal considerations in pricing. You can't do, there are things that you cannot do. A lot of companies don't realize that. Different governments in different parts of the world have different consumer protection acts to protect pricing. Singapore's rules are very similar to what's happening in the US, that you cannot fix pricing, you cannot collude on pricing. There are certain rooms that you can have price cuts, a certain room you can't. For customers, a lot depends on what they consider fair. And how do you price fairly so that they see value, and then you also have pricing integrity? How do you use all of that for long-term brand and product equity building? The power of the incubation program, as our friends here have indicated earlier, is that you will collect some market information. Part of pricing is dedicated, diligent data analytics. We get the data, we analyze it, we understand what's moving, what's not. how is that affecting all your other sales? How does pricing of 4 apples affect pricing of 1 apple? How does your lamb pricing, cubed lamb pricing affects your lamb chop pricing, affects your beef pricing? So a lot of that requires some basic data. So you take this data, you analyze it, and pricing is a continuous loop. You continue to adjust, change, and that also leads to potentially over time increasing your price at the same time of strengthening your brand and product equity in the market. So it is important that we plan strategically at the get-go and not leave pricing at the end. I stress all the time with all my clients and participants in my seminar that it is important to think of pricing at the beginning because it affects everything you do. And it is the one variable that is cross disciplines. It's not a marketing issue. It's not a strategy issue. It's not an economics issue. It's not a finance issue. It's an issue that involves all the disciplines. And our logistics friends had mentioned that you also have to cover all the costs at the same time with building all your perceptions. So there's a lot of analytics, a lot of analyses involved, but I cannot stress more importantly that you consider this at the beginning and have a complete, well thought through strategy throughout the whole process.
Great. Thank you so much, Lillian.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lillian, for sharing about the importance of pricing actually at the beginning. Based on my experience talking with exporters, I mean, not only in Kazakhstan, but in other Central Asian countries, I noticed that most of them are more interested to sell to distributors at some margin and not be responsible for the final product or pricing that they are doing. That's why I think it's very valuable to know about this. I would like Ruslan to
just can I add one word? I think just about the most dangerous thing a company can do is leave pricing to your partners. You should always control your price. Because that affects long-term what you want to do with your product. So you don't want to leave pricing to your distributors, your retailers. That's why it's important to dictate it at the beginning. And the laws in most countries in the world allows for unilateral decision on pricing. They just don't allow discussions in pricing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Lillian. And dear participants, of course, there is a lot of investments will be from your part to bring your products in any parts of the world. But here we're talking about Singapore and Southeast Asia. However, Kazakhstan government provides opportunities and tools, measures for you to actually do it in more cost-efficient way. They will subsidize part of your expenses. And about the subsidies and what are the current policies that they have, we have a speaker from Kastri, Aybek Saginaev. Thank you so much for joining. Aybek, the floor is yours. And let me stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen. Yes? Aybek, so you can share your screen. Just a moment, it happens that technically some lagging. Yeah, good. Aybek, can you put your camera on? We can't hear you, Aybek. Let me unmute you. Just a moment. Yes, Aybek.
Yeah, so sorry. So let me welcome everyone and tell you something about our organization first. So our organization is called Center for Trade Policy Development, Castrate. It's mostly analytical organization with 100% state participation, and we function under the Ministry of Trade and Integration of the Republic of Kazakhstan. And as you can see from the first slide, basically, we have several government institutions supporting the export activities in our country. And one of our main tasks is to create conditions for increasing the export and expanding the sales to the new markets. And importantly, I want to stress that in September 2019, the decision was made that Castrate will be positioned as a single window for the exporters. And in this line, in Castrate, there was created special portal, web portal called export.gov.kz. So that is information and analytical portal, which created to provide wide range of services for the exporters. And in addition to the functioning portal, we have also created the Telegram channel that is called Export.gov as well. So it is important to keep in touch with our exporters and to see their issues, to know their worries, and to be on the same page in other way. So as you can see from this slide, so this is our targets, our overall aims, and let me show another slide. So the biggest aim is to create the ecosystem, because as we know, like, unfortunately, in some ways, we have some gaps between government organization or between government and business. So for us, it is important to link all of them. And that portal includes all the information for exporters, including materials on goods on export, so different analysis, different statistics, data. So we also show the attractive markets. We also show how different types of the cost might be reimbursed. So I believe this is quite important part of our portal. So in this line, let me familiarize you with the main ones. So for example, there is an organization called Export Insurance Company, Kazakh Export, so which is only a specialized insurance organization. So they perform the functions of export credit agency. So they also offer exporters the following services, such as export credit assurance, export trade financing, and pre-export financing.
So sorry, can I interrupt you? I see the participants ask you, can you put the slide share? Because right now you're not sharing the, the bigger one. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
So we also have some other organizations, such important organization given here, such as Development Bank of Kazakhstan and Special Agriculture Bank of Kazakhstan, which support the financial means for the exporters. In other words, we also have service support line. So in this line, we are talking about different events which are happening in foreign markets. We are also talking about reimbursement of some costs regarding having some infrastructure objects in foreign countries, about some business trips, and so on. More details can be given in a document, because there are quite a big line of supporting activities from this side. And importantly, some of the service support activities will be shifted to the Castrate starting from this year. We also rely on our embassies and sales offices, which are located all over the world. So it is important to bring the interest of our producers in foreign markets as well. So again, I stress your attention to the portal that is called Export.gov.kz, because that portal includes quite massive information in different lines, and we believe this is especially useful for the export-oriented companies. And now let me introduce the program. So we call it program Castrate Accelerator. So that's kind of a brand new program, and importantly, this program is designed for the companies which are going or which are doing small export for foreign markets. And importantly, it goes parallelly with today's session that this year we are dedicating this program for the food producers, because we understand that food produced in Kazakhstan has a very good feedback from all the foreign markets. And as you know, food produced in Kazakhstan is very organic, very clean. So we do have our competitive advantage in this market. So for us, it's important to dedicate the first accelerator for those producers who are working in food industry. And importantly, there would be the multi-factor expertise. So the program itself would be take a form of some kind of competition. So 70 per 100 companies will be chosen. And importantly, all the experts from the side of Castrate and from the side of our partners, there are international partners, including big four companies which had the same experience in Russia and European countries. And there would be made deep analysis of the weaknesses and strengths. So we try to understand and prepare those organizations to go for trade contracts. In other words, in short, we start with the production and we try to finish with signing the contract with a foreign partner. So the whole line and the whole operations, meanwhile, inside of this line would be regarded as a Castrate accelerating program. And for your information, taking this opportunity, I want to say that most likely the kickoff of this program will be during the next week. So importantly, I will call you, especially I'm now talking to our exporters and to our participants of today's session, so you can take a part in this program as well. So we do hope that we can make great contribution and help to increase the export side. And there are given some potential and current exporters general problems that we have some high transaction costs. So the same as which relates to the Singapore, we know that logistics costs are quite high. And we also know that in some ways for many organizations, they don't think about export activities because they doubt their opportunities or they doubt their products and they don't know the right ways to go for the exporting. And we also know about the different kind of barriers. In this line, it's important to note that, for example, we have some kind of barriers between the, let's say, the political side barriers or different integration organization barriers. So for us, it's important, first of all, to know these barriers and then to handle these barriers. So again, by summarizing my speech about Castrate Accelerator, so there are given the, the tentative schedule of the program stage. So the companies will fill the questionnaire first and will try to analyze the overall activities, the background, and importantly, they will see the analysis of the weaknesses and strengths by this program. And there will be given special recommendations for these organizations. And importantly, there will be consulting. And when I'm talking about consulting, it's not like only for educational purposes, but also about really practice-oriented consulting, because we will be doing many activities together. So starting from, I don't know, different paperwork, continuing with the relation with some government organization in order to get some approvals, some necessary documentations, and so on. There will also be given opportunity on business missions. Because, as I said, some service activities would be part of Castrate operations, so participation in different B2B meetings and the network events would be the great advantage, and there will be fully equipped space at the exhibitions in 2020. So when I'm talking about these activities, please be aware that all of these activities would be given free of charge. So basically, it's a great let's say the support for business side of our country. And of course, there will be the summarizing of the activities. So we'll try to keep on track on activities of those organizations chosen and see the further steps for the contract development. We also see, try to analyze and evaluate the overall performance in foreign markets, and we also would be doing lessons learned for us. So how we can really improve our activities, how we can really make greater contribution for our business side. Because for us, it is important to understand that we are also on the business side. So we are not just separate entities. We are very much interested in supporting the business. So in short, that was my presentation, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aybek.
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing the screen. So now we can see each other. I'm glad that we're actually sharp on timing, and I'm always concerned about timing because this is valuable to every participant. So you know exactly that we're finishing on time. I want to thank once again every speaker for their time and for sharing the solution. Let me summarize once again for those of you who came later, for those of you who maybe didn't follow the whole presentation due to language barrier. And I will just summarize in very quick terms. First of all, Sauwat Strategy, based in Singapore. It's run by me and consortium of the companies. And solution that we are presenting right now is to help your products in food industry to bring to Singapore and then to Southeast Asia. And in this process, we are guaranteeing once you get certification in this market, all approvals, of course, we will support, that you will be placed on online stores in Singapore. It's Redmart, it's Zmart, it's NTUC Fair Price. And these 3 stores, online stores, contributes to 90% of all e-commerce in Singapore. Why we're talking about this solution? Because due to COVID-19 situation, many offline stores are closed and people are buying online. So it will grow and we feel that the trend will continue. For example, Kantiban and Sudev, their team is always at this warehouse packing these products to make sure that it delivered. And the demand is actually increasing day by day. In terms of logistics, we're collaborating with a company of Idahar Asia, run by Aziz Janbakiev. He has expertise for around 12 years how to move products in these areas. And they have a fleet, they have all required manpower to do that. And we have this trusted relationship that we make sure that you get the best prices for logistics. And in terms of the pricing, we collaborate with Chen, Monroe and Associates to make sure that your products are priced the best in terms of the highest perceived value that you can get from customers. When I'm talking about that, you have to understand that Singapore market is market where the products sold at very high price. Just to give you a comparison, apples in Kazakhstan, for example, 30 apples in Kazakhstan, it's around maybe 5 kilograms, will cost 10 times lower than here in Singapore. And we don't see representation of apples in Kazakhstan or in Singapore or in any other Southeast Asia. However, you have to understand that apples are from Kazakhstan originally. So we have to work on this marketing too. And being Sauwat Strategy being found by me, like a Kazakhstani, but also understand Central Asia, I can help you with that too. Another thing that you have to understand that we will try to collaborate with Cost Trade. As of now, we're not collaborating. It's more on a partnership. We invited to give a talk, but we'll try to cross-sell the potential solutions so that everything related to Singapore and Southeast Asia, we can collaborate. And always, if you have any questions, we're more than happy to reply. And now I just want to give this floor to questions, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. I noticed that on chat, there were some companies already asking questions.